Now, let's have a look at all the object concord in all the different classes of nouns. So starting from class 1 to class 8. We'll look at these in the singular and then in the plural as well. And of course, we'll then have the translations into English of the sentences so that you can just see what's what. So class 1 and class 1A. Remember this and always keep it in mind that class 1 and class 1A are very similar. The only thing that's different with them is the actual prefix of the noun itself. For class 1, the singular prefix is the plural prefix is aba. For class 1A, the singular prefix is u, and the plural prefix is o. But everything else about these two classes of nouns is the same. That is why 1A is not going to have its own class, but is rather a subclass of class 1. So I am, however, making this example, separate, so just so that you can see that it is really the same thing. They work the same. So for class 1, the singular sentence will use umngani, umngani being a friend. Umngani, the subject concord for the singular noun is mu. So he or she. And we've already looked at that when we were looking at the personal object concords. So that's mu. So if I say I love my friend, then I would say ngiyamuthanda umngani wami. Ngiyamuthanda umngani wami. That mu before the verb, that is the actual object concord. So my friend, the one we are talking about, is represented by that mu. It's he or she. So I love him or I love her. And of course, we could translate it in the funny way and say, I love him, my friend. I love her, my friend. You understand? So the plural is abangani, abangani. So then the plural object concord for that is ba, ba, ba. So here is the example. I love my friends. Ngiyabathanda abangani bami. Ngiyabathanda abangani bami. Ngiyabathanda abangani bami. The object concord always right before the verb. For 1A, ugogo, grandma, is the singular, and the object concord for that is mu. Just the same as in class 1. Now, if I want to say, I love my grandma, ngiyamuthanda ugogo wami. Ngiyamuthanda ugogo wami. That mu before the verb, that's grandma. That's the object of the sentence. So we could say, I love her. Ngiyamuthanda. Then we can look at it in the plural. The plural is ogogo, ogogo. So grandmas, grandmothers. The plural object concord, of course, being the same as in class 1, is ba, ba, ba. And so, ngiyabathanda ogogo bami. Ngiyabathanda ogogo bami. I love my grandmothers. Or we could say, I love them. Ngiyabathanda. I love them. Class 2. The singular noun we are going to use is umuthi. Umuthi is a plant. Umuthi is a medicine. I've mentioned this a number of times, I believe. And umuthi being a medicine is coming from the fact that our traditional medicines are mainly taken from plants. Yes, there are some that are taken from other objects as well as, for example, as water or animals, but mainly it's plants. And so that is why the word medicine in isiZulu is umuthi. Now, umuthi is singular, medicine. The singular concord then for the object is w, 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 w-u. Ngiyawuphuza umuthi wami. Ngiyawuphuza umuthi wami. I drink my medicine. I drink my medicine. We could remove that my medicine and simply say, I drink it. Ngiyawuphuza. Ngiyawuphuza. Make sure that that w is heard, is audible, so that the person you're speaking to knows what you're talking about. So, ngiyawuphuza. Then we have the plural of medicine, which is imithi. Imithi. So that is medicines or plants. Ngiyayiphuza imithi yami. Ngiyayiphuza imithi yami. Ngiyayiphuza imithi yami. I drink my medicines. I drink them. Ngiyayiphuza. The object here, imithi, being y in that phrase. Ikhekhe, class 3. Ikhekhe is a borrowed noun from English, as in cake. So, ikhekhe is the singular. The singular object concord is li, li, li. You see that some of them are exactly the same as the subject concord. So here we are. Li is the singular object concord for ikhekhe, for class 3 noun. Now let's say I eat it. I eat cake. Ngiyalidla ikhekhe. Ngiyalidla ikhekhe. Ngiyalidla ikhekhe. I eat cake. Now, this one, we are going to then go back to our old example that we had done when we were looking at the revision of past lessons, so to bring us or to transition us into object concords. We made this example and said, ingane ithanda ibhola. The child likes soccer. And then we said, ingane ayithandi ibhola. Ingane ayithandi ibhola. So that statement itself there, it's correct when you are, grammatically, we could say it's correct when you're still on the early ages or stages of learning isiZulu. But when you get to this stage where we are now talking about object concords, we now need you to start speaking isiZulu, trying to speak as a native speaker. And so with that, we are then saying you have to put in the object concord before the verb so that you sound like a grown-up, basically, because, we're no longer sounding like a beginner. So this sentence that we had made of ingane ayithandi ibhola, we can then say it correctly grammatically and say, ingane ayilithandi ibhola. Ingane ayilithandi ibhola. Ibhola being a class 3 noun, so the object concord there is li. And so we are saying, ingane ayilithandi ibhola. Now we look at amakhekhe, the plural now of ikhekhe. Amakhekhe, cakes. Ngiyawadla amakhekhe, I eat cakes. Of course, it sounds like in English, I eat them cakes, but that's not what I'm saying here. So, ngiyawadla, I eat them. Ngiyawadla amakhekhe. Looking at class 4, we'll use the noun isikhwama, which is a bag. Isikhwama. Isikhwama, some people will also use that noun to talk about a pocket. So maybe a pocket in your pants or trousers, a pocket in your jacket. They will also say isikhwama, but mainly people say iphakethe. Iphakethe being borrowed from English, a pocket. So, isikhwama, a bag. The singular object concord for it is the same as the personal pronoun or the subject pronoun, the subject concord, which is si. 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 Ngiyasithanda. I like it. Ngiyasithanda isikhwama sakho. I like your bag. Ngiyasithanda isikhwama sakho. I like your bag. That's si. Remember that it's the same. It looks exactly the same as the s for us or we. Now, you need to have context, what it is that is being spoken about, so that you know which s this is. Is it s for an it, or is it s for us? So context is very much needed. You need to have known that we are talking about your bag, or you need to have known that we are talking about us. You see, so that context is very, very important. I'm actually just going to add this here. There is a time where the king, our new king of AmaZulu, Isilo uMisuzulu ka Zwelithini. There's a speech he made, maybe, was it early this year in 2022? And people were like, oh no, he can't speak isiZulu. No way, no, this is so embarrassing. He cannot speak isiZulu. Actually, the man can speak isiZulu fluently and isiSwati as well. So the Swati language of his mother's family. Fluently. The thing that makes, and I saw that when he was reading the speech, I actually said to my family, no, he didn't write the speech. Someone wrote the speech for him. And by the sound of it, I think it's the one who is called the Prime Minister. So maybe that is the person who wrote the, speech for him. Because you could tell that he is either seeing it for the very first time or reading it for the very first time. And so he doesn't know context, who is, the voice of the actual article or speech that he is writing. So who is speaking here and who is being addressed here, so then it sounds really funny when a person doesn't know and they are reading out loud. It really, really sounds terrible. So that's why people were saying, no, he doesn't know how to speak isiZulu, and yet he is the king of AmaZulu. He actually can speak the language, but you need to have read something, whatever article or whatever it is that you are going to read out loud. You need to have read it previously so that you know that you have context, and then you will read it correctly, So when you see an u, you know whether that is he or she or you. So whether you're going to say u or you're going to say u, you see. So I'm just putting it out there that the king can speak isiZulu fluently. So anyway, that was that. The plural of isikhwama, a bag, is izikhwama, izikhwama, bags. The object concord of it is the same as the subject concord. It's z, z, z. That now, if I want to say, I like your bags, I then say, ngiyazithanda izikhwama zakho. Ngiyazithanda izikhwama zakho. Ngiyazithanda, I like them. I like your bags. Now look at that. That Z is the same as that Z of the reflexive object concord. So when we are talking about your own self and saying, for example, I love myself, ngiyazithanda, it's exactly the same Z. So it does help to then add, what it is that you're talking about, so the person is not lost. And so if you say ngiyazithanda izikhwama zakho, so mentioning the object, it then makes it easier for the person to know what you're talking about. So I like your bags, ngiyazithanda izikhwama zakho. Once the person knows that you're talking about their bags, then you can then continue and just say z, z, z all the time. So ngiyazithanda. Now, class 5. Class 5, singular, we are using the noun ingane. Ingane, ingane. Ingane is a child, not a baby. A baby is umntwana, a baby is usana. So we are saying ingane this time. The object concord for ingane is y, y, y. That Y-I, the Y here being a consonant vowel sound. So I love my child. Is then going to be ngiyayithanda ingane yami. Ngiyayithanda ingane yami. Ngiyayithanda ingane yami. What I usually see people doing here, students usually try and read fast. And so when you are doing that, you kind of then merge or blend together those two syllables, the ya and the yi. You don't want to do that because then the person won't know what you're actually saying. If you just say ngiyithanda or ngiyathanda, make it clear, ngiyayithanda. Ngiyayithanda. Listen to how I would speak in my normal speaking speed and tone. Ngiyayithanda. Did you hear that? You can actually hear both syllables, the ya and the yi. So the plural now is izingane, izingane, children, izingane. So I love my children. Ngiyazithanda izingane zami. Ngiyazithanda izingane zami. I love my children. That's representing izingane, representing all nouns that start with I-Z-I-N or I-Z-I-M. Now, the class 6 noun we are going to use is ukhamba, ukhamba, ukhamba. It's a clay pot. The class 6 object concord is similar to the subject concord of class 6 singular, which is lu, lu, lu. So, ngiyalufuna ukhamba lwami. Ngiyalufuna ukhamba lwami. I want my clay pot. Ngiyalufuna. That lu is it. I want it. Ngiyalufuna. So, ngiyalufuna ukhamba lwami is I want my clay pot. The plural of singular ukhamba, the plural of it is izinkamba, izinkamba, izinkamba. Keeping in mind that class 6 nouns, when they are singular, they sound so soft and the sound is a bit aspirated. So ukhamba, you're kind of breathing that out, ukhamba. And then the plural sounds a bit nasal, izinkamba, izinkamba. Do you hear that sound, the difference between those two? So that's how you tell that a noun is a class 6 noun. So the plural is izinkamba, and the object concord is the same as the subject concord, which is z. Ngiyazifuna izinkamba zami. Ngiyazifuna izinkamba zami. Ngiyazifuna izinkamba zami. I want my clay pots. Class 7. Class 7, if you look at the charts that you are going to download from Google Drive, is if you look at the chart itself that goes with this work, it's going to look as though it's a singular noun, but class 6 and class 7 nouns are actually neither singular nor plural. They are uncountable nouns. So a class 6 noun that we are going to use is ubuntu. Ubuntu, I'm going to overly simplify its meaning or translation into English and say humanity or humaneness. I'm making up a word. It should go in the dictionary. Humaneness. So I love humaneness, or I love humanity. So, ngiyabuthanda ubuntu. Ngiyabuthanda ubuntu. Ngiyabuthanda ubuntu. I love humaneness, so I love humanity. Now, let's make another example with another noun. So, ubuso. Ubuso is the face. Ubuso in isiZulu is not singular, it's not plural. So, ubuso. Ngiyabuthanda ubuso bakho. Ngiyabuthanda ubuso bakho. I love your face. Ngiyabuthanda, that bu is the face, ubuso. And then we look at a class 8 noun. A class 8 noun we are going to use is ukudlala, playing, ukudlala. Do you hear I'm not saying to play as in a verb, because now this is not a verb anymore. It is now a verbal noun, a gerund. So it's playing with an ing at the end. A gerund being a noun that you can, a gerund being a verb that you can use as a subject of a sentence and also as an object of a sentence. So, ukudlala, ukudlala. The object concord for it is similar to the subject concord of it, which is ku, ukudlala, ku. So, ngiyakuthanda ukudlala. Ngiyakuthanda ukudlala. I love playing. Ngiyakuthanda ukudlala. That ku is it, the actual thing we are talking about, which is playing. So we could actually just say, I like it. Ngiyakuthanda. I like it. Or I love it, depending on what you want to translate thanda in that sentence to be, love or like. So that is how object concords are in isiZulu. I would like to then move on to using object concords when you have a verb that starts with a vowel. Next. Usale kahle.